And it's our connection to our feelings that helps us to be more sure. We don't walk around saying, I don't know how I feel. And if it was the case that you didn't know how you felt, you have tools to kind of examine it.
Welcome to Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you found us. And to our returning listeners, welcome back. We've missed you. Take a moment to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the inspiration, wisdom, and heartwarming stories we share every week. Let's grow together, one soulful conversation at a time.
In this episode, we will understand the flavors of emotions. Helping us with this is an author and a sensory perception and emotion management strategist. Welcome to the show, Kim. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing good. I'm so happy that you took the time out to deal with all of the technical issues we had before recording. I really admire that. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to hear. Yes, the tenacity of it all. It's so awesome. And that's why I'm super happy that you're here, because I would love to learn so much from you. Your book is very beautiful, like I said before we started recording. And I believe there's a lot that we could learn from it, especially when it comes to emotion and dealing with our emotions too. And that's why I would like us to start out with your story, because you're no stranger to it. You didn't just write a book out of the blues. You experienced rock bottom. I'd like us to just talk about what you learned and how your life experience was like, losing the life that you built and having to start all over after even believing that you've gotten what you wanted out of life.
Yeah, I'm not a spring chicken. So when we go back to the beginning of my life, that was in the 60s. And when I was 5, which, the first 5 years are very formative. And when I was 5, I was sexually abused by a family friend. And then really from 5 to 9, I had a series of similar type events. And, that really lays a foundation for you as an adult too. And then as a young girl, I was growing up with a mother who drank, and alcoholism got a lot, more out of control the older that we got. So that really affected me. And she ended up passing from alcoholism, cirrhosis of the liver, when I was 30, was just a few days after my 30th birthday. And, that was really difficult. And, there was also an event, we don't have enough time here, but there was also a spiritual crisis that I went through in the religion that I had been raised my whole life. So when I met my first husband, the how kind of I say is my rock bottom, I had already experienced like a lot of stuff that was pretty rough. And I was just like in need of someone to love me and to take care of me and to protect me, because I was very vulnerable at that time. And he seemed like the one. I excuse me one sec. I'm gonna take a sip of tea.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, that's so profound, like having to
Yeah.
go through all of that, yeah.
And then I went into this marriage. I put him through chiropractic college, and I gave up my career to help him with our business, because this was what we were going to build and grow and sell, right? Like we were just going to be, set to retire young and just be all energetic and have a great life. But he ended up having an affair with a woman that I had hired to work our front desk, because we had 2 businesses. We had his chiropractic practice, and we had a complementary practice but a business. It was a running shoe store, because we worked a lot with runners. So gait was important, and proper shoe fitting was really important to prevent injury. And so that's what we did. And we hired this woman, And, what's not to fall in love with her? She was very personable and I loved her. But he fell like in love with her and had an affair for, gosh, I would say almost a year. And what I had learned throughout my life and what I talk about in in my book is like I literally was on the floor of my condo after he left me and my heart was broken, my life was a mess. Like, what do I do when I get up? What do I do with my life? And I had this pattern going back from age 5, with my mother, like of pushing emotions down and being blind to things that you don't want to see emotionally. So something that is you think could be upsetting or is going on, but I was emotionally blind to it. And a lot of things went on in my life, including that affair that I knew deep down inside was happening. Like, the core of me knew it, but my willful blindness was like so strong. I was just like, I am not going to look at this. I'm not going to see it. And finally, when I did, I lost how much time? A lot of time in my life because I wouldn't look. And so this got me on this path to try and figure out my emotions. I just didn't want this to happen to me again. Couldn't keep it from not happening, right? I mean, you know as well as I do, I can't control anybody else, but I can control me.
That's true.
That is what really set me on my journey. And it culminated in this book that I wrote. But the thing that really, really pushed me into this direction, because, as you're reading and learning all these different things, I read a book called How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain. And it was really what changed my whole world. And it was because I saw the brain has a process. And my background is in implementing systems. And this had a system that I could connect to. And this repeatable process that the brain has, I related to. And then I thought, well, how do I make this repeatable process more relatable to me, to other people? Because everything I read in that book was so confusing at first. There was a lot of terms, scientific terms. I had to learn them. I really dug deep into interoception, into how emotions are made, because they're constructed, how our sensory systems work. What are all of our sensory systems? How do they play into this? What is consciousness, which is still a big question. And so that is what led me down this path, like really focused my trajectory and why I'm doing what I do today, because everything I've learned has been so helpful for me. And if anybody is afraid of their feelings, which many of us are, or was taught not to feel them, you're shutting down a major artery. It's like going around like this, putting your hands over your ears all the time. Like if you're just listening to this, you wouldn't see what I did. I put my hands over my ears because if you couldn't hear what's going on around you, you kind of put you in danger. And yet I was putting myself in emotional danger because I wasn't listening to what my body was telling me.
Hey there, podcast enthusiasts. Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your day? If you're loving the insightful conversations and captivating stories on Mirror Talk Podcast, here's a friendly nudge to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the empowering messages and thought-provoking discussions we bring to your ears. But wait, there's more. We're all about spreading positivity and inspiration, and you can be a part of it too. How? By sharing the love with your friends and family. Share this episode with your loved ones, and let's create a ripple effect of empowerment and growth together. And hey, if you've been enjoying what you hear, why not take a moment to leave us a glowing 5-star review? Your feedback fuels our passion to keep delivering content that resonates with you. So hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the Mirror Talk magic far and wide. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, Your support means the world to us.
Wow, that's so deep. I mean, one thing I've already learned from what you said right now. Well, first of all, I'll say thank you so much for sharing that. I was like a life journey that's I won't say you experience a lot of trauma, basically, a lot of painful experiences, a lot of painful moments. And I'm so grateful that you took all of that to be who you are today, make it positive to help other people's life out there. That's something profound. That's something awesome to do. Like taking all the, how you say, the lemons that life threw at you to make lemonade for us to drink right now and to learn from also right now. That's so awesome. One thing that I learned from you right now is basically we cannot control everything that every other person does. We can only control how we accept things, how we feel things, or how we deal with what we feel or our emotions, basically. Yeah, how we respond also to how people treat us. Yeah, that's really deep. I would like us to jump into your book already because you already talked about it in a bit. Method, our approach to managing our emotions, and you documented all of this in your book, which is titled "Yucky Yummy Savory Sweet." So I would like you to tell us how you came up with the approach that you came up with to emotion management and how we could also make use of it.
Yeah. So the full title, because it doesn't always make sense with just the first part, it's called Yucky Yummy Savory Sweet: Understanding the Flavors of Emotions. And I explained earlier that I learned from that fantastic book, and actually others too now. That was my introduction, because this concept of constructing emotions really makes sense, because that's what your brain does. It constructs everything that we have in life. They talk about the matrix, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that and science will tell you that when we see, we're not seeing with our eyes. Our eyes are the vehicles for the light waves that get turned into signals that the brain uses to predict what it is we're looking at. That's why we can see something, get it wrong, and then look harder. And oh, that's what it is. You think you see your friend Joe, and then you look again. Oh, wait, that's not Joe. It's just someone who looks a lot like Joe. And so
Yeah.
this happens with what we hear. It happens with what we smell, with what we taste. All of our sensory input is a prediction of the brain. So really, I don't know what you see. You don't know what I see, because what's in your head could be a little bit different than what's in my head. And that's why the philosophical question of what color red do you see versus what color red do I see is constantly being debated. But philosophy aside, we do have a brain that predicts, and it predicts our feelings too. And the thing about our feelings is that it's using multiple things to predict feelings, and that our feelings actually come in two flavors. So we have the feelings that we're used to hearing about, like love and anger, sadness and happiness. But we also have, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough.
Oh, sorry.
We also have the feelings that we use to keep us alive. So there's constant communication going on in our body. If our liquid levels, our water levels are too low, we're going to drink water, right? If we've been drinking a lot of water and our bladder gets too full, we're going to feel the pressure. And
Yeah.
so we empty just enough to make it happy. And we will drink enough water until the brain says, okay, it's done. And then it might say, oh, I need a little bit more. And then you'll drink more water. So this is that constant conversation. And those feelings that we get are from our brain's predictive nature, right? That's what it's doing. It's predicting how much water we need. Not enough, I'm going to get more. It's using for those other feelings, because that's all chemicals and different pressure points and internal communication going on. And then it's using everything going on in our outside world and our inside world to determine those other emotions. And what does it use to determine those? Our past experiences.
Mm.
So first, let me just say, does that make sense?
Yeah, of course,
Everything
it
is
makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
okay, great. I just want to make sure I'm tracking. Some people are so busy like thinking about this and they're like, oh, and they just get a little lost. So now we've got, and so I call everything that's going on in our inside and outside world, I call those the ingredients of our emotions. And then we've got the recipes. So from the minute, actually, from even prior to our birth, at about 7 months in the womb, we start hearing. We hear our mother's voice. We're hearing music. We're hearing other voices, but we really connect to the mother's voice. And we start to learn and associate it. That's why they say babies can't recognize anything. The brain is building the connections. And a parrot is saying, "Oh, you're crying because are you hungry?" And you learn what hunger pangs mean, right? So this is learning. We're born with emotions. And then we are taught from our bodies and from other people around us what those feelings mean. And that can include hungry or tired, and it can also include sad or happy. So we've got these definitions for what needs to happen for me to feel love. We have definitions of what needs to happen for me to experience anger. And it gets developed, and the brain uses these recipes for all of our future action. So how we felt yesterday is how we're going to feel today, and it's how we're going to feel tomorrow. These type of emotions, unless we do something to change it, unless we get new information, unless we learn something. So for me, the question was, are we learning from the TV, from social media, from other people, or am I proactive in these recipes that really impact my life? And then that's when I came up with this whole emotion chef concept of understanding that process and helping me to be more proactive in the recipes that my brain has. It's just like if you owned a restaurant and you wanted your cook to prepare certain kinds of food, you would taste it and give them feedback or change the recipe. And that's what I'm suggesting happens emotionally. And the key to this is that you can't change a recipe unless you taste it. And there's a sensory system inside of our body that tells us how we feel. And that sensory system is called interoception. Interoception sounds like interception. So I say it's how you catch your feelings. And if you've been pushing them down, guess what? You're not going to feel them or notice them as readily as if you were more connected to them. And so they've researched this. This impacts not just your emotional health, in those kind of what they call affective feelings, but also your physical health, or what they call homeostatic feelings, because it's a one system, man. If you're pushing down those emotions, you're pushing them all down. So you might not notice you're hungry till you're starving, or you might not notice that you're sick until you're really sick. And so that's why this whole process of gaining interoceptive awareness helps you not just emotionally in the sense that we think about, but also physically. There's another benefit to it too, is that when you can recognize and regulate your emotions better, there's a 1-to-1 correlation between the emotions and its impact on your immune system. So if you can recognize them and regulate them better, meaning they don't get out of control, or you're crying all the time and you don't know why, like how my ex-husband, I can't tell you how many times I'm asking, well, how do you feel about this? And he's like, I don't know. You would know better how you feel. So you're able to handle those emotions which impact your immune system. So the benefits are just outstanding to knowing how you feel.
Yeah. And I think that would be my follow-up question, because knowing how to feel sometimes can be very challenging for a lot of us. So I'd like to know, how can we connect to our feelings, to our emotions? How can we avoid the temptation of just suppressing them? Because sometimes suppressing them could be the easiest way, could seem like the easiest thing to do in order to just move forward and, just get on.
Very good question. And so just doing little things. So I like to, I use food. Let me just say, I use food as a way to help you, as one way of trying to help you, because it makes a lot of sense, right? Because food is multiple ingredients. And guess what? We have multiple ingredients because we've got all these different sensory systems.
Yeah.
Flavor is also a product of multiple sensory systems. So not only do we have multiple sensory systems that we use for our emotions that they're created, but we also have multiple sensory systems that produce what we experience as flavor. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
what
it
we
makes
see,
sense.
we know from COVID that if you can't smell, you can't taste.
Mm.
And so when we learn to connect and try and maybe capture more flavors in our food, we're connecting a little bit more to our sensory systems. And then if we notice how it feels going down in our body, how it feels after we eat it, we're connecting more to that sensory system. Now, you could also do another exercise. So if you were to just right now stop and say, okay, I'm going to feel my heartbeat. No, don't touch it. Just don't touch. No, for those of you who are, just listening, he is touching his heart. And I'm just going to say, no, just try and connect to the pounding of your heart. And then practice that. Just take a few minutes a day. Notice, see if you can connect to the beats. Like I've gotten so that I can feel my heart beating right now, even as I'm talking to you.
I can't feel mine.
That's okay. That's
I'm so
okay.
disconnected from it.
But because we're under a little stress, right? Like
Okay.
I've got you like under the gun, so to speak. Not really a gun.
Not really. No.
But what happens is you will start to notice things inside of your body. Like if you think you need to eat, like measure, like how hungry am I? Like try and see, like, is it strong feeling? Is it a little feeling? Notice in the morning when you get up, like, how does the top of my head feel? How does my shoulder feel? Just connecting to your body. Those are interoceptive signals when you focus on a part of your body and you're able to feel it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, good.
Those are like
Well,
simple things that we forget to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you can practice the heart stuff later. You don't have to do it right now.
Okay.
But I'm saying these are just ways to start to get comfortable with connecting, especially if you're not used to feeling inside of you. And then, you work up to it. In fact, I have a whole chapter dedicated to some exercises and what interoception is. And in the book, I also have how we can grow as emotion chefs for people who are really shut down to do these types of exercises and then grow into being connected to your emotions. Like in any given moment, what was going on at the time? And how do you feel in your body? And then does how you feel in your body really make sense for what's going on around you? Understanding that if you are experiencing fear is like putting a blinder on. So if you were I like to use the jungle. If you were in the jungle and you're looking all around at beautiful antelopes and all this beautiful scenery around you, and all of a sudden there's a lion, do you see the scenery around you anymore?
Yeah.
No, you're focused on the lion. That's
Yes.
what fear does. And that's why fear is such a great tactic for politicians, for religious leaders, for business leaders, for any type of leader that wants to rule with fear. And that includes some parents, right? And so when we can recognize, wait, I'm feeling fear right now. Do I really need to be fearful? And look at more of what's going on. We can start to get in a practice that gets us questioning our feelings, because we want to be able to understand that situations, even similar situations, can be different. There's fine differences that can make a difference in how you feel. And knowing that it's the ingredients gives you this opportunity now to try and look at the world as just a bunch of ingredients of your emotions, so that you can say, that really shouldn't make me fearful. I shouldn't be this upset over what's going on. Maybe I'm just a little bit irritated. And so that irritation has a chemical effect on your body. So there's levels of cortisol, there's levels of all these quote unquote fight or flight chemicals that your body releases. And so you're actually getting less of it when you're in a irritated state versus an enraged or angry state. So these are all health benefits, and that helps to develop emotional granularity. And what emotional granularity does is allow you to define your emotions more distinctly. And, that's what we do with food. So why
Yeah.
wouldn't we?
Yeah. I love that illustration. I mean, I love the way you make use of the ingredients. And that makes me understand your book even much more better right now, because we talk about cooking and dining and using all of these concepts as an approach to emotion management. So if we say this food is too salty, next time we know, okay, how to manage the salt, how to reduce it, or, make it much more appropriate so that it tastes much more better later. And that way, if we take that into our emotions too, it helps us to understand how to deal with fear, how to deal with anger, how to deal with, how we respond or react to things around us. Yeah.
And I think what I really drive towards is it really what we're experiencing? So if you think about it, we're using some old recipes. We're using things that we have learned yesterday, day before, maybe from the time we were 5, right? Pushing down emotions. I still have to work at facing difficult situations, but I'm more aware of it. And it's not about being perfect at it. It's about being more aware. And so when we understand that our recipes that we're using today, just like how my grandmother used to cook cornbread with lard. And I mean, this lady was from the South, and she cooked probably something that would cause most people a heart attack. Both grandparents had strokes, right? And so we know now today what's healthier for us than before. And the same is true of emotions. So I don't think we should sugarcoat emotions. I don't think, if a turdy situation presents to us, I don't think we should frost it just to make it more palatable. I think we examine it to say, is it really a turd? It might be dark chocolate and you just don't know it, or bittersweet chocolate and you just
Yeah.
don't know it
Yeah.
until you really examine the situation. And if it really was a turd, then if you're going to take that emotion, turn it into frosting. Don't frost it, turn it into frosting. What can I do from this situation to learn so that I don't either put myself in it, or when these type of people, come into my life, or this type of situation comes into my life, I'm more aware of it, or I have compassion for them because maybe they have a pretty crappy life. And so they're just handing their crap out to you. And I know I'm using those kinds of terms, but a lot of us deal with some really, really stinky situations in life. And so I used to frost mine. My mother's drinking, I frosted. My husband's cheating, I frosted. And so I don't want to frost it. I want to take it and turn it into something that is valuable to me. And hopefully now with this book, I'm turning my frosting to help other people.
Yeah. That returns me back to what I said earlier, when I said you're taking all these lemons basically and turning them into lemon juice, or how do you say it? Turn it to lemonade for us to basically enjoy and to nourish
To
our souls.
lemonade.
Yeah, to lemonade, exactly. To help
Yeah.
us to nourish our souls basically and help us to know what to do in order to become better beings in terms of feeling our emotions, understanding our emotions better, not allowing our brains to interpret them wrongly, and then also being able to manage our emotions. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
The thing with lemons and lemonade is that there's lemons in it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So you're just saying put some sugar on it. And so that's the distinction I want to make here is that
Okay.
I'm not saying put sugar a sour situation. I'm saying make sure it's sour. It might not be. And if it is sour, then turn it into something that is more productive for you, that you can learn from every situation.
Mhm.
You just got to take a minute and think about it.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. Don't just put sugar on it and make it sweet. That's like suppressing also your feelings. Take the lemons and use it to make a dish that requires lemon. Yeah.
Suppressing an opportunity for you to really examine what's going on and to change future recipes. Because remember, you're the owner of this kitchen that is cooking up your emotion recipes, and they do what you say. So if you say, wait, when this situation happens again, I don't want to look at it as a turd or as a lemon. I want to look at it as something else. I want to look at it as, I don't know what else you could do with lemons. I only said the dark chocolate, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about looking at that situation and being more aware. We just kind of skate by, and the more important part of really all of this is not just the health benefits, but it changes how you think, it changes your behaviors, and it impacts your decisions because all of those rely on your emotions. Your emotions underlie everything. And as logical as you want to think you are, and I know people think, oh, I just made the most logical decision. Underlying every logical decision is a feeling because you felt like it was logical,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Yeah.
And you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, this is so logical, but your feelings tell you this is the right thing to do.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that could be, a result from what we've experienced in the past also, like, our past experiences, past traumas, past, events could influence those feelings and influence our logical thinking, our very, very critical thinking skills that we think we have and decision-making skills also.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's true.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it just expands our world, really. I think it does. It just expands who we are as a person, and it gives us more self-confidence, and we know who we are, what we don't want, what we need, what we don't need, what's important, what's trivial, you know, what do I prioritize, what is less important. Those those are important things, and it's our connection to our feelings that helps us to be more sure. We don't walk around saying, I don't know how I feel. And if it was the case that you didn't know how you felt, you have tools to kind of examine it.
That's true. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I've learned so much from you. I mean, you went into so much depth and explained how we could manage our emotions. I really appreciate it. I just have one more question, and that's about, or maybe two actually. And that's
Okay.
about, yeah. No, you talked about everything you've talked about. I mean, are amazing, and there are things I would like to make use of in my life. But I always think about it in this way. It's always nice to hear things and try to apply them. But when it gets to reality, sometimes you get beaten by life itself and you don't know what to do. And then sometimes it requires some intentionality, it requires some resilience also. And that's why I would like to learn how we could be resilient in terms of our emotions, how we could be resilient in terms of how we manage our feelings.
Resilience comes in that time period between the feeling and the action, and how you reaction. So to
Yeah.
be able to react to things, you want to have that emotional cushion, right? Because, I used to own a running shoe store. And so if you want to be a resilient runner, you want to have a good sole in that shoe to help you not only keep from injury, but to bounce better, right? Like it literally helps you.
Yeah.
And so your ability to connect to those feelings and to be open to connecting to the feelings and examining them, that's what builds the resilience. So it's being able to identify them. So yeah, in moments, and I want to say that, with everything, there's no quick fix. If it could be fixed quickly, sorry for that. If it could be fixed quickly, then nobody would have any problems. You wouldn't see all these emotional drugs out there. Here, let me help you with depression. And because this depression drug can cause this, I'm going to give you another depression drug to help you with that. All that does is keep us from really getting, I'm not saying everybody should be off of depression drugs, but my point is that if it was that easy, we wouldn't even have these drugs. And so it's just taking the time to recognize and just doing a little bit of it a day. Not trying to make it your life's, burden. Because if it's a burden, it's not going to be enjoyable. So that's why I just start with noticing how you feel. Just start with then connecting to how you feel in situations. For so many, just being able to notice, ingredients in food might take a little time, or feeling their heartbeat. It could take a little time. Do it. Take it. Take all the time that you need, but don't stop yourself because you're afraid. As long as you're working on it without fear, but when the fear comes up, that means, oops, I need to take another step forward. I need to try and go a little deeper. I need to try and do a little bit more. I'm not saying a lot more. I'm just saying it's a good indicator that you've hit a point now where you're ready to just take it a little harder. Just like in training, when you're training for anything, you got to push yourself a little bit harder to make it to your next goal.
Mm.
And that's why goals get beaten all the time. Like the fastest runner or whoever, they're like, no, I'm gonna go a little faster. I'm gonna beat this goal, and then they do.
Yeah.
So we have it in us, and just remember, fear is real or imagined, and that's a dictionary definition. So real or imagined, and most of them are imagined. Anxieties. If you write down everything that you're afraid of or everything that makes you anxious, a month later, when you look at the list, probably 95 to 98% of them were totally for no reason. And that's because what does our brain do? Predict.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're working on helping it to predict better. That's really what I'm all about, is helping you to get a better predicting brain.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Once we're able to predict better, we'll be able to make right decisions. And I love what you said about, before we reacting, there's those seconds that we have in between to really connect with our feelings and understand our feelings before responding to whatever input or input actions that is coming into us. And that helps us to be resilient also, yeah. And open our connecting with our body also helps us to be able to help our brain predict better in terms of,
Yeah. And if you're taking care of yourself, if you're getting the rest and eating right and your body's in a good shape. So if you think about your physical energy, if it's low, just like a kitchen couldn't cook too well if its energy was low. So you got to take good care of the whole restaurant, right? And then your mood too. Like, so if you're in a really foul mood, let's just say you woke up, you're foul because you didn't get enough sleep. And that mood is going to taint the entire day's responses, because you're kind of laying the foundation for how you're going to respond until you consciously do something to change that mood.
it's true. Wow, Kim, this has been a blessing speaking with you. I would like to ask you, for people out there who still have to ask more questions, who still want to learn more, and maybe also get your book, work with you, connect with you, what's the best way to do all of this?
KimKorte.com, KimKorte.com. The book is on Amazon. And I have a YouTube channel that actually have a podcast too. So
I missed that.
my
Sorry.
podcast is on YouTube, but it's also on most of the podcast players. And I think I just recorded my 8th episode and released it yesterday. So it's pretty new. And I'm recording my book. I think I told you about this before we got started.
Yeah.
I'm recording the book on audio, and it's going to be on YouTube. And so I'm going to have a chapter per video and give some. I'm not entirely sure what else I want to do with that, but I want to build a community of people who are interested in learning more or practicing, really, because, how to practice, how to get comfortable, because you can't spend your whole time just tasting food. That's like an athlete who wants to run participate in a triathlon, and all they do is run. They don't bike and swim. I mean, you got to do it all.
Yeah.
It's sports specific, right? And so we need to be specific with a goal of connecting to how we feel and our emotions. And that's where I'm headed. So if you want to stay connected to me, join me on my podcast, listen there. You can contact me on KimKorte.com, like I said. And, as I grow, I'm going to start building out this community. And it could just start with you, who's ever listening.
Yes. Also, I'm going to place the link to your website in the show notes of this episode. I encourage everyone to visit, copy the link, click on the link, and reach out to Kim. Subscribe to the podcast, start listening already, and get the book. It's available on Amazon. Thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate speaking with you today. I've learned so much from you from this conversation. Thank you.
I really appreciate you giving me this space to share with you, because you're quite an enjoyable young man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow, you made it to the very end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful for your time, your love, and your contributions. Subscribe, like, review, and share this podcast. God bless you. Bye.